Welcome to the Intuitive Empire Podcast, the place for coaches, healers, network marketers, and awakened souls who are all about creating success on their own terms. We are here to rise, and in doing so, we must honor our sensitive selves, activate our intuition, and lead with light. We are the ones we've been waiting for, the change makers, wayseers, and trailblazers. Join me, Jaya Rose, as we step fully into luminous leadership and create epic, intuitive empires that serve the highest good of all. Ready? Let's go. All right. Hello, and welcome back to the Intuitive Empire Podcast. I'm just a little bit excited today with our guest, Miss Caitlyn Pasternak. Okay, here's the story with her. She's going to tell us the story, but she's such a magnetic being, such a magnetic creatrix, as she would like to say. I first found her on Instagram, and she just literally popped out the screen on me. I was like, oh, hey, hi. And I know she does that. I would love to feel special as if she was just talking to me. But I think she wasn't, because I see people reposting her stuff and her just touching so many people's lives. And that almost doesn't really explain it, because to touch someone feels like, oh, it's so peaceful. And yes, she's peaceful, but fierce, and her messages just ignite you more than touch you. So I'm really excited to dive into all the new things going on in Caitlin's world, and really how we can harness just even a little bit of that magnetism and energy that she brings. So what's up, girl?
Oh my God, thank you so much. I always love when people give intros, because I can really tap into if people are tuned into you. And I'm just really grateful for that intro, because that meant a lot to me. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I'm a words of affirmation girl. So it's anytime you're just
Nice.
Receive it. Oh my gosh. So you're in New York today. Is that right?
Yes. Snowing like crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
It looks, so I have her on video, and it's glowing yellow. So I don't know what you're doing, but you got the glow.
I'm giving off some kind of aura right now. I was just actually doing a Facebook Live earlier where it looked all white. I was like, I'm coming to you from heaven.
You're like, hi, I have arrived. I'm here. And what is the message? So what message were you sharing on your Facebook Live today?
I was actually talking about the frequency of leadership, and not in frequency of repetition and people continuously giving a message, because it's getting diluted, and people tuning into the frequency of belief and their soul alignment when they're speaking, so people know to listen. I mean, we're just at a time where more and more people are getting activated into their gifts and their purpose, so they're excited to share, and I get it, but it's be potent with your message, be direct, be clear, be someone that people want to follow. And because if you're not doing that, you're just wasting time, honestly, and just clouding up the space of confusion.
I love potent. Is one of my words right now, and has been for maybe 6 months or so, where I'm just that's the thing to focus on.
Yeah.
And so how do you do that? How do you, particularly you, focus on potency in your life so you can show up in that message, in the clarity in your message?
Yeah. I think it's two things. The first thing is a spiritual connection. That's what my focus is completely dedicated to, before business, before anything. It's just staying in that vibration and that frequency of source. So I'm no longer questioning anything of oh, maybe I'll read a personal development book and hope that this would work for someone. It's I'm coming from direct source information of everything. And then the second piece is actually living what I'm speaking about and sharing in-depth experiences, so people know that it's real, instead of talking from this surface level perspective of hey, why aren't you doing this? And you should do this. It's hey, this is what I just went through, and this is what I'm processing right now. And here are some key codes for you to navigate in your own journey, so people know that I'm actually leading something. I like the terminology of it being a tour guide versus a travel agent. A travel agent is just oh, here, go there, it'll be great. A tour guide is all right, everybody, get on board and get on the way. And it's just that's what a leader actually is. So
I think when I first found you, you were calling yourself a leadership coach. Is that still applicable?
I think, I don't know how you feel about this, but like the whole coach thing just like dropped out of my field completely within the last couple of months. It was like, no,
Yeah.
that's not what you are. And I was like, okay, no.
Yeah.
So I don't really title myself anything right now because it feels so conflicting and I'm doing a lot of different things, but it
Yeah.
would be in the realm of spiritual leadership for sure.
Yeah.
And whatever that looks like, it's just leading from spirit. So yeah.
Yeah, it's funny how it morphs. It's like it means something different for you, maybe than it did when you first started with it. So will you share with us a little bit about when you first started teaching? I resonate a little more with teaching. I've
Yeah.
kind of switched over calling my clients students as well because I do more group work anyway. And I'm like, oh, wow, it is a different feeling
Yes.
than coach. Although I'm a coach, like if you're my friend, I'm gonna coach you. Like, like just kind of, it's there. But yeah, I'm curious for you about when you started and you were drawn to leadership and drawn to being a leader for leaders or mentoring them in that way. Like, how did that start? And then how has it shifted for you into more the spiritual leadership?
Yeah. So I think I was so drawn to coaching and personal leadership because of my own experiences that I was going through. And I kind of needed someone just to give me that like extra kick in the butt. And not always like that's just what coaching is, but I really needed that at that time in my life. So I saw the value in it and I wanted to deliver that for other people. And just like you, like I'm the coach and all my friends, like everyone's like, if they know they need to get like cleaned up, I'm like, come on in.
Yeah.
Like, let's give you what you need. And then with time, I started to deepen my spiritual connection more and more. And through that time, I realized that I wasn't really a coach. I was just more of a channel for what wanted to come through for that person at that time. And in opening up my channel and just receiving new ideas that do feel like more teachings, it's also like partnership for people that are in their ascension journey. So it's difficult to describe the value set that I have in what I'm doing right now because it's not specific anymore. It's just like I'm a channel for spirit and I'm going to do whatever that means at that time. And that just looks like so many different things. Like this event that I just created, that was like, whoa, now I'm doing this thing. Like it's just being completely open and not being attached.
I feel like the thing that you seem to translate the most, like what I feel comes through and resonates with me is the move over, like move yourself over and allow the messages to come through from spirit and share those messages. And I think that's what, like you do that so well. So thank you for that. I mean, it's just, it's so good. And what I tend to talk to a lot of highly sensitive women who feel everything, and in that can get really overwhelmed and get stuck and get in their way, so like if you're saying like, okay, like move out of the way, allow it to come through. But I find a lot of protection happening with highly sensitive empathic women because they're so afraid of like what else is going to come through. Right? It's like you allow yourself to open up and hear the clear messages, but then it can be overwhelming. So do you have that experience at all or any insight on really picking the channels that you tune into?
Yeah. It's such an interesting navigation because there's obviously no one way to do it. Everyone has a totally different experience. But I'm actually feeling called to take this to a practical level because I didn't really understand the importance of healing my nervous system when I was going through opening up more and working with my body more to hold in and anchor the energies was really important for me. Because when I was opening up more and like doing more channeling, I would get so exhausted and tired and it felt like my life was falling apart and I was like, what is going on? It was so confusing. But then when I started to do more like network spinal analysis and started to do different like healing things with nutrition and just really taking care of my body and practicing more of that, it started to get easier to implement. And I started to learn more about how to navigate that cosmic realm, which I think all of us we have to teach ourselves kind of. It's not like someone comes to you and it's like, this is how you open the Stargate here. And then you it's like, you kind of have to like explore. And I invite people all the time to have fun when they're in that realm, to just go into a deep enough state and then say like, I want to go to XYZ. I want to meet XYZ, like whatever you want to connect to, just ask and then see what happens. And then you kind of have to learn how to unlock those things yourself while you're keeping your body grounded and
Mm.
peaceful, because it needs to get used to ascending to these higher energies, whether we're like intentionally channeling or not. Everyone's going through ascension. So their bodies are going through the whole different kinds of ascension symptoms of like flu-like or like sleeping, nausea, like appetite changes. We have to really be aware of that and be taking measures against it.
Hey babe, I hope you're enjoying the show, and I'll let you get right back to it. But remember your free gift, the 7 Steps to Magnetic Embodiment Guidebook. All you need to do is text the word embody to 444999, or head on over to thejayarose.com and download it there. Either way, you're going to love it. It breaks down my 7-step system for embodying your highest self and magnetizing your dreams to you. So simply text the word embody to 444999, or head over to thejayarose.com, and I cannot wait to hear what you think about it. All right, enjoy listening. I love that you're talking about the practical. That's definitely more the realm I live in, because I was a personal trainer for 12 years before I took my life coaching business online. And so I'm always like, okay, and the body. I mean, my signature program is called Embody, right? So I love that you're talking about that. What are some of the practices that you find really valuable for grounding and embodying for yourself?
Yeah. On like the day-to-day, I'd say salt baths and being in nature. And as I used to judge people all the time, they used to like hug trees and stuff. I used to be like, all right, you guys are like a little over the top. Like I get it, but whatever. The more open that I've become, like I live in Manhattan, so it's become a really interesting dance.
Yeah.
I need to go and touch trees. Like, and I just feel my entire energy shift and recalibrate to nature. So nature has been huge. Those are like day-to-day things. And then also network spinal analysis, which I mentioned, that's been really supportive for me too. And just kind of just releasing the body's fear of opening, which is what all this is. Like whether the trauma is from, this lifetime or how many lifetimes, or just from being human, it's just the resistance to opening, to feel more. So that has been really helpful too.
Oh my gosh. I think that's it right there. Like the resistance to opening, to feeling more. Boom. Like, and goodbye. It's like that's it. And I've done so much work around that myself. Just this idea of, okay, the more I feel, the better. And being highly sensitive, that there's a mixed bag inside of that. But it is so true that as you ground into yourself, you do get to choose. But I also hear what you're saying about, well, you kind of just have to let go and allow things to come in, and then you can choose if you want that channel or not, right?
Totally.
So it is that like trial and error. Do you feel like, do you have women come to you when they're at that phase, or like what phase are women usually when they come to you and your magic is the most potent for them?
Yes. It's for a couple different realms. I think, on like the very human front, a lot of women come when they are really locked into masculine programming and just like controlling everything and not being able to reach their next level of fulfillment, success, and know that the feminine energy is the way to do it. And then the other side of the spirituality is women that know it, believe it, but don't embody their sovereignty. They keep spirituality as something like on the side instead of walking in this world and being like, I'm a spiritual being and these are my gifts. And just like really owning it. It's a whole nother level of personal ownership. So I'd say a mixture of those two things.
So good. So I just got this little hit to just say, let's just talk about leadership in this day and age. Okay. And this is what I mean by that. I see you as being a spiritual leader and being like the new, this is such a weird word, but like the new kind of, like the new flavor of, the new embodiment of spiritual leadership, thought leadership. Okay. Put that out there. And in that, what I see is that we need to just do it differently. Like this shit needs to be done differently. And the leaders who maybe have ignited something in us or activated our own leadership, we look up to them. I just feel are just not really relevant anymore in terms of the way that they got to where they are.
Totally.
Right. And here's what I want to talk about. And then I'd love to know just download it, you know, whatever you feel around this. But one thing I feel like can be resistant for women in general is having the impact, you know, having the influence that it really takes to step out all the way up. Like that's what's going to happen if you step all the way up, right? Isn't that the intention, to impact as many people with your amazing message and with your channel? But so much ego has always been in this. And this is what I see for the leadership that's been in front of us, that I can look at that and say, I don't want that. Like, I want to have the impact that I know I'm meant to have, but I don't want to have the ego that I've seen it require.
Yeah.
So and I feel like you model this really well. You have a big following, you have people sharing your stuff. It would be easy to allow that to boost up your ego and to flex that, right? And so what do you feel like is the practice for yourself around this? Or just like, what are some thoughts around this new way of leadership that is being called for us to be so transparent and so much more dropped in?
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a beautiful question. Anna, I know that you'll understand this, and I think everyone actually will understand this. There's such a feeling component to this when when your ego is active. And it's like you're like, the more like high vibe you become, the more intolerable that is. Like it will, and I will get that like all the time. I'm like, whoa, my ego, like I just feel it. And not like it's like, oh, I'm this badass and I'm doing it. It's not like that. There's just moments where you feel it trickle in about judging someone else or about looking at someone else in a different lens, and it's disgusting. And so that's where it comes in to be like your own integrity, which is the most important thing as we're going through this ascension. I think that's what everyone feels within other leaders, is their integrity and what they're speaking and the way that they're living and then the way that they're showing up. So it's kind of like us embodying that and being aware of like, we know when we're in our ego. It's not like this unconscious paradigm we're running. We know when we're in it, we can feel it because we're becoming more aware and more sensitive. So it's about like shifting ourselves out of that. Or if it keeps coming up, we have to look at what's the wound that's truly driving that. Right. And I think like a wound that was driving me for not even like wanting to form too much of an ego and being more of a people pleaser is because I was always like bullied. Right. So like, that wasn't my like thing to be like, oh, I'm this badass. Right. I'd be like, I'm going to help you. And like, I'm going to help you. And you just like love me and I'm just going to help you. So that was my work, to be like, you know what? You're really good. Own yourself. You don't have to be like a pumped up ego about it, but like own yourself and own your worth. So we're all on our own mission with that conversation, but it's about like navigating our own personal trauma and really remaining in the highest spiritual integrity on all fronts.
And do you see it as a big shift? Like, do you see a lot of, especially in the online coaching space, I guess is what I'm thinking of, in the lifestyle entrepreneurship, where what you do is you tell people how much money you've made and you show them the Chanel bags or whatever, all these things. You know, that stuff doesn't personally relate to me because I'm not inspired by material things.
Yeah.
Just not. But I do feel like there's this fine line of, okay, I am like the best. It's this concept of I'm the best, but that doesn't mean I'm better than you. It means I'm the best at being me. Right?
Yes.
Like, you might think I'm better than you, but that's only because I love myself more than you love yourself.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's more like the direction of what people are wanting, but it definitely still exists. And I see it every day. The like, no, I'm literally just better, you know?
Yes. And like putting other people down to like make themselves known. But honestly, it's my belief that that won't result in success anymore. I truly believe that divine will is being done more than it ever has been. Like our free will thing was like really great, but I feel like divine will is coming in like, hey, let's get in order. And so everyone that's not living in integrity will just continue to get knocked down at a faster speed. So it's kind of like forced, get your shit together and be honest and be
Oh, I feel that so much. Do you feel that, or have you been feeling that for like a certain amount of time and then like everything just sped up and shifted for you? Like, have you had a lot of shifts happening in the last 6 months, year and a half?
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes. I'd say like the last 6 months in particular, and I'm sure like everyone can relate. It's been like, whoa, but it's complete, like we're just being completely rerouted to our soul's actual path. And if anything was like a little bit out of alignment, like for me, it was, even though it looked like soul path, it was like a piece of my business, like one of my like flagship programs. I was like, nope, that's it. This is fine. I love it. It's all set up. I have my team. It's good. But there was something that was out of alignment, and it was like I was forced to let it go. And it becomes this thing when you're in a deeper connection where you just can't do it anymore. It's not an option. It's like it gets taken away from you energetically completely. It's where you can't latch onto it. You can't force your body into taking action on it. It's not like okay, whatever, I'll just talk. You can't. It's just done. It's gone. So now you got to reroute and get super clear. So yes, for the last 6 months, it's been really intense, but it feels like really good now that I went through whatever rebirthing, realignment process that I did, because it needed to happen.
So you really pivoted out of something that you had built a lot of steam in. Is that right?
Totally.
Okay. Yeah.
I was going off, when I first started, I was like going off passion, like purpose, like, yes, I'm going to do this. And then the more that I got into, working with other business coaches, they're like, this is the way. This is the key to your 7-figure empire. Like you do this. And I was like, cool, do it. And then I was like, well, this doesn't feel right. And it wasn't. It was because I was trying to get bigger in something that wasn't for me. And so now I'm like dropping back to like core roots, and it's like, what do I really want to be big in? And it's nothing. It's not like an online coaching. That's not it. So I'm like, okay, now it's like back to square one almost. I'm like,
wow,
all that to scrap it away to get back to this and learn everything from it. But yeah, it's a humbling experience for sure, because you're like, wow, I was like totally out of alignment and wasn't listening.
I relate 100%. Same exact thing happened for me a little more than a year ago. And I had built 6 figures in a direction, fully doing it. And then I was like, and nope, that's not what I'm meant to be known for. And that was like the initial question is, what do you want to be known for? And how are you willing to show up to get there? Like, are you willing to hustle? Are you willing to sacrifice your own needs? Are you willing to sacrifice relationships? Because that's kind of what I felt was designed in front of me. And it is that more masculine way of doing things. And I was like, no, absolutely not. But I have no idea what's coming in its place. None. For me, it took a solid year of just being like, well, I'll just try this on. Nope. Just another one, just over and over again, taking action and feeling it out. So has that been true for you as well? Did you let go of your signature program and you're like, okay, you obviously didn't know what was coming in, right? Because you're clearing the space.
Yes.
Okay. Space is empty.
Space
is empty. So what, will you tell us a little bit about what that process was like? Like, was stuff coming in and you taking action, or were you just hanging back until something really felt good?
Yeah, I definitely hung back, and my normal pattern would be to take action, but I knew that it was so much bigger than what I was like allowing myself to hold. So it was like I had to stretch my faith. Like I just had to stretch my faith in order to receive everything. So the decision came in to leave that in a moment. It was like in a meditation, it was like, that needs to go. And it was just like shocked my whole system. And I was like, what? Because this was like a multiple 6-figure piece of the business. So it was like everything I was building. I was like, well, what? It was all set up to run. We had a wait list for it. It was like ready to go. I was like, what? Really? Then it had to go. And
sure.
I know, really? Like, are you positive? I like asked again, but like it was gone.
Yeah.
You couldn't grab it anymore. And then I was like, I just knew. I was like, I need to clear space. So I cleared private clients. I literally just went in like full sabbatical mode and just meditating and opening up. And that's when so many of just gifts and new insights and like more of my spirituality came through. And then that finally led to the birthing of everything that's coming through now, which I'm like, oh, thank God I did that. But it stretched my faith immensely. And there were a lot of ego deaths that had to happen. A lot of detachment from money, a lot of detachment from success and who I thought I was. So many things, but it was so worth it. So worth it.
And this is a little bit new, right? Like you're just launching new stuff right now.
Yes.
And this is the birth of that, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This is the beginning.
So
a vagina opening.
And the vagina is open. So how are you feeling? How are you?
I'm feeling amazing. I'm feeling lit up from like inside out more than I ever have been before. Just everything. This has been just such a beautiful experience to create this, because it's a dream come true. It's like my dreams coming true. And I'm like, I wouldn't allow myself to do that in the state that I was in before, because I was so focused on other things. And now I'm realizing just how much more magic can unfold when we let spirit guide the whole thing. And that's been my practice this time, because what I'm giving birth to, and not just like these intangible, like these little things that are coming through, it's a bigger archetype for females. And I know that I'm here to learn it and embody it so I can share it. As like this, it's in like ascension archetype. And we do things so differently. It has to be done so differently. Before, I used to like do my morning routine and get amped up and be like, okay, I'm in alignment, I'm doing it. And it was great. It worked. Not anymore. Now it's not like listening every step of the way, not moving until that guidance is there, like being in a completely different identity of receiving, of what I'm here to birth. It shifted so many things. And I know that it's going to, just the work that I'm doing, I know that it's going to impact women because of what I'm creating from that space. So it's really good. And it feels like life's work. Before it was like, okay, this is my path, but I don't know where it's leading. Now it's like, this is life's work.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So what do you do? What do you need to do to just like hold that? Right. Cause I call it the spiritual plank, where we're like, okay.
Oh my God. That's such a good term. Right? Oh my God, I love that.
It's so much truth inside of it. Well, and I was a personal trainer, right? I taught people, and I specialized in women over 60, which is a whole different thing in your body. And I would teach them, they would hold a plank for 10 seconds. And by, 6 months later, they'd hold it for a minute and a half. And you're just like, where was that capacity? Like how did that capacity come about? Right? You stretched it, you strengthened it. And so I do feel it's a good analogy to what we do. And I just got this image of you saying that. You're like, it's the life's work. And then you're like, like I'm holding on to this. And it is for other people. So I'm just curious for you. Do you see it that way? When you're saying like, okay, I'm just listening and then I'm taking action. I'm not trying to force anything. I'm really dropped into this whole next level of truly trusting and listening. And do you feel like what does that require of you? This is the question I want to ask you.
Yeah. The requirement is being willing to do the shadow work that comes up as it unfolds, which is a lot of control and fear and scarcity, and I'm not supported, and I'm all alone, and I need to do this, and just like all of that toxicity that I had thought I worked through, but this was like a whole nother purging process. And I'm just staying so present to all of it. And that comes with like the spiritual sovereignty. It's like full belief, like, no, this is the way that I'm meant to operate. I know I am being guided and I'm supported right now. And whatever ego stuff wants to flare up, like that's totally fine. But this feels like the most expansive and exciting thing for me. And I'm also appreciating that every day I become more equipped to deliver it. So it's like, I'm not in a rush to have the end result, because I'm like, holy crap, like look how much I grew in the last month. Imagine what another project would look like in 2 months of this, and like 6 months of this. Like, I'm just so with it being a piece of my own life experience, not like forcing the outcome, because there's no time. So it's just about staying really present.
I love that, not forcing the outcome, because don't you feel like in the entrepreneur world or in the personal development world, everything is about goals? This word, I'm just like, I can't even with goals.
You know what? There's like, I always think I heard this once, that there's like two kinds of people in this. There's people that are building businesses, and then there's people that are living out their soul path. And they're just completely different. And there's not one that's better than the other, but people have different priorities. And even, a lot of business coaches that are like, oh, I'm really spiritual. I've had this experience when I'd be working with them. And when it got down to it, it was more about business. Like when it got down to that moment of what value are we prioritizing, it was more about business. And I was like, that's not me. Like I tell my clients all the time, like if someone's not working, I'm like, all right, you're going away here for a weekend and you're going to be in meditation. Your business is turned off. I don't care if you're in the middle of a launch. Like I don't care. This is a spiritual situation. Like,
we've got a spiritual situation.
Yeah, spiritual situation. Yeah.
And there will be spiritual planks involved.
Get ready, sister. Bring your water bottle. Yes.
I love that distinction. I've never heard that or thought of it that way. I mean, I certainly know where I align, and I could say that easily, but yeah, I haven't thought of it that way. I think that's super clear, just to say, at least just like, this is maybe weird, but pick a side, just like pick what's a priority and then hold true to that until unless you want to shift it. But it is powerful to know. And especially because I think probably both of us tend to attract more the women who want to live out their soul's path, right? Like that's what they're here for. And that's why they're attracted to you. And I believe to me as well. And so in that, this is such a powerful message. It's like almost permission, don't you think?
Yes.
Permission to be like, well, and yeah, but you're not here to be a businesswoman.
Totally.
Of course you're an entrepreneur because you couldn't work for someone else. Like,
yes.
You would be fired, but right. And so do you feel like is this a message you share in general, or is this something you talk about, this like full commitment to, to the path?
It is. And it's also taken with a lot of responsibility, which I've seen before that people use that as like a cop out to be like, well, I'm like not spiritually ready yet, or like whatever, all these other things are like coming up. And it's like, no, that's your human stuff that you haven't worked through yet. And that's what you need to work through as a spiritual being that's here to live out your purpose. So if it's keeping someone in a spiral of inaction and not getting results, then it's a cop out. I think it's a cop out. And then in the other realm, it's like, if you have experienced success and you're like, okay, like I can do this and I am committed and I'm living this out, then you get to evaluate, where are you trying to be a businesswoman instead of trying to be like what I would say a creatrix? Like you're a totally different model of woman. Like we have a totally different way of achieving success and of operating in our greatest potential that hasn't been done before. It's the most beautiful thing. It's like we were so hype on like getting all of our rights and Miss Independent, like I'm not going to please my man anymore. And then there's miserable women that like don't want to be single and don't want to be this like corporate crushing or like 7-figure entrepreneur that's doing all the things and kicking ass. They're miserable. So there's an opportunity for us to like carve something new, and it has a lot more spiritual foundations.
Yeah. Amazing. I love that. It's like I'm curious about the creatrix. I know you said that's a term that's been used, but I haven't really heard that. So I want to know, like, even if it's been used, like, what does it really mean to you?
Yeah. I like read it somewhere once and it was like my whole body, like I just was like, ooh, I was like, that feels like so good. I've always resonated with being a creator. And I'm sure you do. We'll just like give things and birthing things all the time. So a creatrix is a female creator with all these, spiritual meanings behind it, of a woman being a true channel for what source wants to give birth to, a woman that prioritizes her body and her joy and her well-being and her femininity and knows her role in this planet. Like knows her role is to listen, to tune in, to receive, to have all that joy moving through her as she gives birth to something, whether that's a business or a program or a child. It's whatever, but it's you just being in the state of receiving from source instead of trying to create it externally. It's just a totally different experience. And especially for entrepreneurs that are like, let me look at my market and let me look at the pain points and desires and all, like, yeah, that's fantastic. But what is source trying to birth through you? Because I know that every time I tried to do the other way of like looking very 3D at everything, it doesn't work. But when I just open up and I'm like, tell me what it is, like, let me give birth to it, and I'm in my own bubble with it, it's the most successful thing.
Totally. 100%. I feel like it's the question of what is your marketing plan? I call it your energetic marketing plan. Like, what is your energetic marketing plan? Because that's the only thing really to answer. But I want to touch back on something you were saying at the end of a couple questions ago, where you said something like, well, I'm allowing the answers to come in and I'm not focused on the outcome, right? And then we started talking about goals. I think this is such a beautiful thing to really embody, is this just fuck goals, first of all. It's so masculine. It's so, and I don't know, disappointment. Like I was addicted to disappointment. That was like my go-to. I would create, so much evidence, okay. Goals to me just are in that world. I'm like, if I want to disappoint myself, create a goal. You're welcome. I'll
Yeah.
manifest it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think just opening up to that that doesn't even have to exist. Like you don't have to set goals.
Yeah.
And even I've found it to be coming in even more intensely that if I set a number, then it won't happen either. That it has to be about the women that are coming in. When I'm doing, when I'm in open enrollment or something, it's like, it's really about the capacity I have to hold the space for the transformation with the women who are ready for it. Like,
Yes. Yes.
that's, if you call it a goal, which we won't, that's the intention.
Yes.
And so do you, where are you with this? Do you set intentions? Like, I know you're doing a live event.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to share with us about your live event, I would love that. And then like, what's your back end around holding the intention for it? And of course there are numbers and, you're paying for it and there are all these. So like, how do you manage those two worlds?
Yes. So I set intentions and I set desired outcomes, but I don't let that operate me.
Mm.
And it's really, because that's just like a nagging thought of lack when you're like just focused on that. So for me, more recently, what's been coming through, because I went through this period where I was like, no goals. I was like, I don't even want money. I'm so sorry. Just like, I've been out of my life and I'm so sorry. Take me back. I'll live out there in the woods. But then I got to a point where like I was becoming so much more clear with my path and with my mission, and connecting more in that realm of like, whoa, that's my soul gift. And this is all this. Asking for what I wanted became more of like, I need this to do that.
Yeah.
And it was no longer like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm going to get this much money and it's going to be great and this lifestyle. It was like, this is what I'm requesting. I'm putting in my request to you, God. And I fully own my request, which has been something that's like, it's at a level I can't even describe right now, because before I would like feel worthy of it. But this is a whole new level of like, you sent me here. This is what I need. Like, and I need this. I need this for me. I need this for my women. Like, this is what it is. And it may be a number, it might be this, but that's what it is. And the intention is there. And I'm kind of moving forward with like, of course that's going to happen. And it does. It's just like, of course, because this is what's needed for the expansion of what I'm here to do.
I love that. I love that. That aligns so deeply with how I look at prosperity and earning money. That of course that's a part of it, but it's relevant to and equal to the gifts you're willing to share and the amount of trust you're willing to have. Totally. It's relevant to that, right? So it's like then let's reverse engineer that and say, well, then again, it's not about the goal. Of course it's about asking. Like, I love that you're talking about requesting and at a level of it's really the law of divine compensation, right? It's saying, here's what I'm willing to give, and this is what I need to receive in order to be able to give. Then again, this is, it's reciprocity.
Yes. Yep.
It's definitely so cool. So I love that. Let me just summarize everything you say. Is that okay?
It's great because I'm like, yep. I love having two different insights on it though too, because it anchors it in deeper into me.
No, totally. I'll just walk around with you and just be like, yeah, that's what she meant. Anywho, okay, so tell us about your event. Will you share?
Yeah, I'm so excited. So it's called the Creatrix Matrix, and I knew like when I planned this, it's literally like planning my wedding. It's like the most exciting thing I've ever, and I've allowed myself to be just so all the way out there with everything, because I feel like people need to be in a matrix in order to experience the growth. So like an actual vortex where it's completely different from reality. And they're being like just completely recoded with things. So the way that I set everything up is for women to open their channel. So going through all these processes with like network spinal analysis, breath work, quantum hypnotherapy, all these things. So they're just in this state where it's kind of like plant medicine, but plant medicine is not there. And then to give them all these initiations and ceremonies and trainings on how to embody this creatrix archetype in their business, in their leadership, in their life, and to fuse it with just like queen energy and dance and all these things that I don't feel are being done in our space in a really effective way right now. There's so many beautiful feminine leaders in this space, and I know they don't resonate with everyone because they're not as potent and they're not demonstrating what it means to be both fierce and feminine. Like truly, it's not just like, okay, let's connect to our bodies and just like fall back and let life happen. That's beautiful for some people, but there are women that are here to bring through a powerful message, that do need to show up and to lead, and they get to do it from this feminine way of existing. And it's not just like, oh, let me show up and let me be soft and intuitive. It's like the way that I run everything and the way that I attract everything in my life is so different than anyone else. Like, they would think I was crazy if I went to any like traditional entrepreneurship program or anything. They'd be like, what? But yeah, this is how you're meant to operate. You're meant to operate with energy, with receiving, with ceremony, with all of that. So yeah, that's it. So I'm really excited. Yeah.
I love it. And when is it?
It's April 19th to 21st. Yeah. Yes. I have a feeling this is going to be the birthing of like many iterations of it. So it's really fun to go full steam ahead with the first one.
I love it. And are you, do you do other in-person things, or is this?
Yeah, I do. I do VIP like activations, which like, you know, like your soul's always ahead of you. Like I was doing these for like all of last year and not really knowing why, but I was so called. And so now it's like all that's being infused into this larger format, but I still do those because in-person work to me is everything. And I do a lot of like energetic work with people. So I do those too. And I'm really excited to expand more into in-person, because I think that's what we all need as sisters and leaders. So yes, more coming.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Oh my gosh. I just have an urge to thank you for being willing to lead in this way, and to really setting an understanding and a path for other women to step into this themselves. Because it's whether or not you're leading the entire movement, or you're a few steps behind and saying to Caitlyn, thank you for demonstrating this, right? Like, thank you for modeling this for me. Cause I know for me, as I've seen other leaders, I'm just so thankful for the modeling, and I'm like, cool, now I've got it. Right? Like stepping into it. So I just want to thank you for what I feel like is really going first.
Yeah.
I feel like you really are going first. Do you feel that too?
I do. I do. It feels exciting. But yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. No, I mean, I feel like that's the number one rule with leadership, right? Is you have to go first.
Totally.
Period.
Totally. Yeah.
But that doesn't always mean that there's not a million people who have gone first before you, and you're just going first in a new way. But I feel like what you're talking about is really about going first in a completely new way. Completely new.
Oh my God, you feel me so much. I'm so grateful for you. I feel like you get it.
Yeah.
Because some of these things, like, we do like talk about these other things, but the message, like, I just keep receiving, it's like, no, this is an ascended archetype. It's new. It's like future oriented, like, and it just feels so new. So I'm just excited to piece it all together. Yeah.
Well, it is such a direct iteration of allowing yourself to go through that. I call it the dark night of the soul.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how I would describe what I went through. It's like, but in that, it's like, you don't do that to come out and not lead.
Yes.
You don't do that to come out and have it be the same story or the same vision even.
Right.
It's going to be different. And I mean, let's just be real and look at this time. Like, look at this time in history and what's happening in our world. And to say that something new is not needed, is just blind.
Right. Totally.
So it makes, on a cognitive, like, make sense level, it perfectly makes sense. Even though you're saying maybe some people wouldn't understand, that doesn't make sense to me, because my Capricorn moon is perfectly making sense of all of this. I feel very grounded in it.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, so good.
Oh, it is amazing. So we will link the event if that works for you. Do you have anything else that would be good to share with our joint audience right now, or my audience in general, just a way to connect with you that feels like a great next step to this conversation?
Yeah. So people can connect with me on like social media. Obviously, I'd say Instagram, I'm on the most. So I'm sure you can put a link to that.
Yep.
I'm really still exploring with like what feels like the best medium. I mean, I've had a podcast, Sexy Soul Radio, for a long time, and I've just been like, I just feel so much more called to do new creative things. So I'd say keep it on Instagram so I know what I'm doing first before I'm like, go here, because I don't know yet.
Yeah.
So Instagram is the best place. I love tuning in there on the daily. Yes.
Yeah, you guys, she does stories that will just blow your mind. You're like, oh, thanks, Caitlyn, but now I will never be the same. So.
You're so sweet. I love you. Thank you.
And goodbye. Yeah. So check her out there. And then I would always ask everybody, if you're listening, to tag us, and we can throw you into our stories or tell us what you got from this. And I feel like this is one of those episodes where it's like, I hope you were sitting down and just drinking tea and allowing this to really sink in, and allowing yourself to embody what's possible and what it's really going to take to open up to what's possible.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Oh.
So what do you want to say to us? I feel like do you have anything you want to express before we go?
I'm just so grateful for you right now.
Aww.
Because you hold such incredible space and you're such a beautiful light in this world. And I love having conversations that flow like ours do, where we're just like both totally open and integrity. Like, I just love and admire you so much. Thank you.
Aww. I received that. So good. All right, you guys, thank you so much for tuning in, and make sure to check out Caitlyn and all the places, but I'll drop all her links below, and check out her event. I will be there in spirit.
Yes.
In Portland in body. So thank you guys, and I'll see you next time on the Intuitive Empire Podcast. Yay. Thanks so much for listening and being here. And if you loved this episode, please take a moment to rate it on iTunes. I feel so honored when I read your reviews, and I would love to feature you on the podcast as a spotlight review. Also, find me on Instagram at Jaya Rose, and I would be so excited to share your story into my story. I just love seeing the feedback and that you're listening. So share it out on social media, share it with somebody who you think it could benefit, because us showing up for other people is what this is all about. It's a ripple effect of change, and we do that by sharing. So thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time on Bliss Boss Talks.